Hi, my name is Carlo Volpe,
And I'm Desmond Silva,
and
and
welcome to
welcome to
Centerville
Centerville
Voice.
Voice.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Centerville Voice. My name is Carlo Volpe, my good friend Desmond. How are you, Des?
Okay, how about you, Carlo?
I'm awesome, guys, and I'm awesome, Desmond. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Thanks for listening. Thanks for viewing us. If you view us on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you will be notified. Des, tonight we're going to talk a little. We're going to change it up a little bit, right? So
Yeah.
we're going to do a little bit of a reaction slash commentary slash basically your criticism, really around common sense and around some videos that we're seeing online. So explain to the viewers what we're going to get into.
Well, we got a guy named, let's see here. His name is Kabane Lame. I believe that's how you pronounce his name, hopefully. And he takes a look at all these life hacks, the so-called life hacks that people have come up with that are just overcomplicating very simple stuff, right? And it's hilarious how this guy just savagely just shows how moronic these people are. And if you can draw similar types of parallels with political correctness, for instance. There was one Afro-American comedian back in the 90s who was talking about, about political correctness. And he was like talking about, oh, yeah, you guys gotta watch out when you're driving around the highway, especially when you get if you hit a patch of black ice. Oh, hold on a second, you can't say black ice, it's Afro-American ice, right?
Well, so it's funny because that's kind of like how it started getting a little bit silly, right?
Yeah,
but with good intention. So I definitely want to make sure that we're saying that is that I understand why a lot of this stuff was started, or I think why a lot of what I'm saying is that racism is real and all that stuff is real, right? But like we're getting to, and we want to talk about tonight, is that the politically correctness has gone so far that it's politically silliness, really, and it's all lack of all common sense, and the idea that common sense is not so common anymore, but politically correctness is like at the demise of common sense, I guess is what we're trying to say.
Oh yeah, like I mean, in the 90s, you could say Afro-American. You couldn't say black. You could, like, in the late 90s when political correctness started coming up, you could say Afro-American, but you couldn't call someone black.
It was becoming offensive to say black. You're right.
It was offensive to say someone's black, but you call them Afro-American or Afro. But now people just call them black and all that stuff. And instead of saying colored person, you say person of color.
Yeah.
It's like a Yoda type of scenario. It's like English you speak well, right?
It's like Shell's game, right? We're going to switch the words around, switch the rules around, because you never know what's going to go, and it's going to keep you on your toes, I guess. But let's get back to these guys. So this guy has videos, or basically, little clips on the internet of basically reaction videos to other people saying they have these hacks or saying they have these life hacks, life tricks, and he goes and then shows them in a split second how he can use a regular tool or a regular appliance that's designed for it, or a common sense approach that basically just nullifies their whole thing.
Exactly. Well, let's get into it right now here.
Let's do it.
Here.
And we'll get our reaction.
Yes, exactly. So here he is. Okay, so there's.
Okay. So in this one, someone's not able to charge their phone, so it's all these different solutions.
Yeah, wait.
Psychological solution. Okay.
Oh dear.
Oh my
God. What the heck?
Wow. That's crazy.
Oh dear God. What the heck?
That's one way to get.
I don't know if this is a life hack or just some crazy design. He's got juice.
There you go. Same way.
There you go. There's your orange juice right there. And simple.
Hours and hours of this stuff, right? That's crazy.
What is this? What the?
was showing to wash them.
Yeah, I like
Why break it?
wash it. It's like simple. At Pete's sake. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's clean. You don't have to throw it out. Pete's sake. What the heck?
Yeah.
Okay, that's gonna silly. Just wash your. What? Okay, I didn't quite get that.
I don't get that one either. All right. I think I've
He cuts himself off.
yeah, or you can probably open the door.
What a lick.
I think we've seen enough done. This is crazy. So there's a million examples of how like
Yeah, exactly.
trying to use a hack or something.
Really simple stuff like trying to take a pizza off the rest of the pizza.
So this is silly and it's entertaining, right? But what's the real problem with this? Because there is a real problem.
Yeah, the real problem is that there are so many people who actually believe that these hacks are actually, oh wow, this is great.
Well, even that alone, I think though is harmless, right? I think the real problem is that this shows, or this is like other things where it's kind of showing, or it's kind of saying, well, everything is wrong in society. We need to fix it, like we were saying earlier, right? This is that far kind of left idea, right? That we need to refix everything. So I think we got the idea of this.
Yep. We'll just do one more and then we'll get off this thing. Yeah, look at that. You put tape on the fork.
That's dumb. Or you can just
yeah, that's just dumb. There you go. See? Simple. That's pretty much it.
There you go. We'll make this guy even more famous.
So
but honestly,
that's the gist of it.
This comes from, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but this comes from a society where we're telling everybody that everybody is like, everybody's special, everybody is unique, everybody needs special attention. And that's true. Everybody is special. Everybody's unique. I don't think everybody needs special attention where there's a new category for everybody or a new thing for everybody else, right?
Yeah.
So is this come from that? Like, where does it, or is this?
Oh yeah, I mean, you look at like a lot of people. They're on Facebook. They're on TikTok, wherever, and they're there just to get attention, right? In our case, we're trying to get a message across, right? Sure. But in most people, they're not there to get a message across. They're just there to get people's approval, popularity. It's a popularity contest.
Now I understand exactly. I understand the it's not useful in my sense, but in the usefulness of just killing time or entertainment value ever. But what I'm getting at is like this is a result, right? This is a result of years and years saying, "Hey, let's get rid of the lawn darts. People like to say, let's get rid of lawn darts. Let's get rid of things that were damaging or hurtful. Some of them were crazy. Some of them were great. Seatbelts were great. Helmets on bikes are great. A lot of things. But the idea that like this is almost an extension of participation awards, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of world.
People thinking that, oh, I'm great at this, even though if they're not, right? But yeah, man. So yeah, if we just stopped it so that people would be, if we just made it so that people would just go along with common sense and be able to see something that's obviously dumb and obviously or redundant, like calling an app for, like I just said, like calling a color, someone who's color, they used to say color person, now they say person of color, right? It's ridiculous.
Well, and stuff like that is only, it's, that's the temperature of the decade, whatever is in vogue this month. And that's the problem with politically correctness. It has a timestamp. It's by definition, it's only temporal, right? It will expire is what I meant to say.
It will expire, and eventually the people are going to come up with some other new fad that's going to be the new political correctness. It's just it's just ridiculous. It's getting dumber and dumber with each generation.
Exactly. I would say it's even more so, more just dumb and silly. It's actually quite dangerous, right? Like we were saying, because politically correctness, if it's politically incorrect to speak my voice, right, and to challenge what the government is saying, or to challenge some laws or some policies that are whatever, then that's going to be against the law. And like we were saying in other episodes, if it's not Canadianness or if it's not American enough, that's what politically correctness is, where it gets dangerous, right?
Exactly. I mean, look at good example. Look what's happening now to the Catholic Church now. In recent months has been under fire a great deal with the issue of now they're trying to get the schools in Ottawa have to fly the gay pride the pride flag, which is, and they're saying it's that they want everyone, they want to show inclusiveness. Well, here's the deal: if you're gay and you're Catholic, the Vatican, guess what? The Vatican flag flies at every single Catholic school every single day. If you're gay and you're Catholic, that includes you. Yeah. So that Vatican flag includes you if you're gay and you're Catholic, because just not because you're gay, but because you're Catholic.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And I didn't intend this to be an episode about this, but it might as well get into this. But I have a problem with the gay pride flag at all, to be honest with you. Not because I have a problem with gay at all, or gay, LGBTQ plus. I have no problem at all. I have a problem with saying that you want to be inclusive, but then making yourself exclusive.
Yeah.
Essentially, if you label something and make a banner for something, then how are you inclusive to the other group that you're trying to be included in, right? Catholics belong under the Catholic umbrella, right? Yes. Under the Catholic Church. Whether you agree or not with whatever the Catholics believe, that's irrelevant. It's the umbrella, right? And the same thing under Canada. Like, we have a Canadian flag in Canada. In Ontario, you have an Ontario flag, and that's pretty much all the flags you need. At your house, fly whatever flag you want. Who gives a shit? And I'm not saying it's bad. Like, I want to make my point. I'm not saying it's bad that the rainbow flag is on Catholic schools or any school. I'm not saying it's bad. I think it's bad if it's forced. It's not inclusive.
And that's what's happening. Actually, they forced it in Hamilton.
That's my problem.
I think one of the members of the board of directors, or one of the board of trustees in the Ottawa Catholic School Board, his daughter is homosexual, and so there's a conflict of interest that's there. So there are people who are there. It's not that they're homophobic, right? It's not they're homophobic. They just don't agree with having the flag in a Catholic pride flag in a Catholic school, because if you go back to the struggle of the homosexual scenario, it's just they're unlike, if you look at the Afro-American and the Native American, the Native American, Native Canadians, the First Nations, even Chinese or even South Asians like myself, when we fought against racism, it was so that we be treated like a human being, right? Whereas for the homosexual movement and the feminist movement, that's not the same. The homosexual movement was about normalizing a particular behavior. And the feminist movement was about gaining women's rights, because women and these certain women had a tiff with their men, right? With their own men. And the thing is, this is actually coming from a Afro-American activist who is who basically looks around at these leftist groups who try to put all these groups together that don't really fit together. Yeah. You get Afro-Americans, you got homosexuals, you have feminists, and you have people who are Muslim. But first of all, the Muslims don't care about the Muslims don't really care about the homosexuals and the women. And the women, from not their women they care about, but the other women they don't care. But the thing is, they don't care about the homosexuals. As a matter of fact, back in their countries, if you go to the more extreme countries, if you're homosexual, you're dead. You'd be hung.
From what I've heard, yeah, for sure.
Right. So in certain ones, not all of them, certain ones they do that.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So it depends on what sect that is. And then the other one is. But the other one, of course, is the feminists, which they have an issue with the men because they wanted voting rights, which is fine. They wanted to, be able to work, right to property, and all that stuff. That's fine. But then they go on crapping on guys all the time now, right? And trying to.
Well, again, that's extreme, right? Because the feminism
that's the extreme of it, right?
That I agree with is the feminism that before it got crazy.
Exactly, and then you have the Afro-Americans and the natives who are, and even the Asians, who were fighting against racism, and that's because they were not treated like human beings. If you look at the natives, they were referred to as savages. The Afro-Americans were seen as when they were slaves. They were seen as beasts of burden. The South Asian and the Asians in general were seen as subhuman. And they did the same thing with the Jews. They even said the Jews are subhuman. So all
that is systemically changed.
It has changed. It has changed a lot.
Yeah.
And now you have a generation
that has changed, right? Sorry to cut you off, but people say systemic racism. It's actually the system that has changed.
Exactly.
Yes, from the people, because the people spoke up. And again, a point, it's not just people of color, it's white people as well as people of color that all work together.
Exactly.
Nothing could have changed without everybody working together, right?
Exactly. As a
So
matter of fact, if you looked at the movie Selma, which was about when Martin Luther King crossed that bridge over in Selma, with a whole group of people in a very peaceful fashion, peaceful protest, and it was televised, and there were a lot of white folks who saw for the first time the suffering of Afro Americans who were in that protest as they got beat up by police officers and who were in full riot gear, being hosed down, beaten up, and all that stuff. And you could see their faces like they're like that because they couldn't believe.
they probably didn't even see that before.
So what?
They hadn't been exposed to that before. Probably.
Exactly. They never knew what it was like, or they didn't know what it was the problem. Now I do,
Exactly.
yeah, there were
nine humans out of 10, 9 decent people out of 10 people, or 9 people out of 10 are decent, right?
Yeah.
And most people react to the same way when they see the same type of tragedy.
Exactly. And I'm not saying the homosexuals haven't gone through any type of scenario, equivalent scenario. Like for instance, if you look at the movie Boys Don't Cry, right? That's about a lesbian woman who was a young girl who was pretending to be a boy so that she could, become involved with another girl.
Yeah.
And in that scenario, it doesn't, and like she's able to hide very well and basically hide it that she's female, and pretend to be a boy, and she fits in just fine. And the other guys treat her like any other dude. They think that she's just very young. It's because she doesn't have any stubble or stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
But so they treat her like a guy, and but it's that when she gets found out, she gets a earful, but from a lot of people. But there were 2 guys out of that whole group who just didn't tolerate with that, and they did some really bad things to her. I'm not gonna, it's pretty kind of graphic, so I'm not gonna really say, but they did some really bad things to her. And eventually when she went to get help from the police and all that, the police tried to help her, the friends tried to help her, even amongst the one friend that was telling that she shouldn't be doing this. Why are you doing this? You shouldn't be doing this. You're just going to get yourself in trouble, right? You should just act like a normal girl, right? And but that friend was there to help her in the end.
Yeah.
And even, well, in the end, they all died.
Wow.
Not just her, but her friends too, the ones who kept her safe.
Oh, wow.
So because of those guys who did all those bad stuff to her, who were charged by the police, they came after them, right? Wow. With shotguns. Crazy. So it was really, they did go through a lot of bad stuff. But the big difference between, but that again is about a particular behavior, right? And the thing is, those guys, yeah, they treated her badly, but the thing is, they would still pat her on the back afterwards and all the stuff and said, don't go doing that anymore. What they were trying to do was they did that to try and change her behavior. Yeah. Whereas if you did that with the Afro community, they didn't care how you behaved. That's the thing. You were subhuman regardless, right? Or you were animal regardless, just because of your skin color, right? Yeah. So that's the major difference, what people don't get. And so when the Catholic Church, even St. Francis, Pope Francis is all for legal protections for the homosexual community, right? But he still doesn't support gay marriage.
You mean legal protection as far as legal marriage union, like a legal union?
Well, not necessarily, at least like he's the thing is, what I did learn later on is that that was actually a misinterpretation. That was actually what happened is the person who made the documentary misquoted the Pope.
Okay.
It wouldn't be the first time, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, they misquoted Pope John Paul II also in order to suit their when the media wanted to have it fit their narrative. They misquoted him too, back in like the early 2000s. But they did the same thing to Pope John Paul. So they did the same thing to Pope Francis. Okay. And what Pope Francis was stating, he said 2 things. One was you know, if a homosexual person wants to find God or seeks out God, who am I to judge? Which is true, right? If you want to seek out God, guess what? Catholic Church is going to be like, yeah, sure, come, right? They don't care if you're gay or not, right? They don't care what your orientation is or what you identify
I
as.
don't think people know that. I don't think people know that. I think that people think that the Catholic Church is against it 100%, and then this is my feeling, and then this is going to be changing the Catholic Church by getting flags and all this stuff and getting them to.
No, it's not going to change the church.
So explain to me what you mean by the Catholic Church already accepts gay people.
The Catholic Church, what I mean is accepts gay people is that.
Well, first of all, God accepts everybody.
Sorry?
First of all, God would accept everybody.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole thing, right? And so they accept them as human beings. Yeah. There are a lot of people who are homosexuals who actually understand the true teachings of the Catholic Church, and a lot of them have chosen celibacy or the complete abstinence. And that is in line with the Catholic Church teachings is rather them be celibate than end up doing that, right? Okay. It's the action that's the problem. It's not the person. So the state of sin happens to do with the action. And then, of course, this is rooted again with the act of sodomy, right? Yeah. And if you understand why the Catholic Church says that, if you go back all the way down to the book of Leviticus, it's rooted in Jewish tradition, is that if you even look at the homosexual men today, and even bisexual men, they are the most likely to catch an STD due to the fact that sodomy makes it so that they're more prone to it because of that particular act.
Like it's a heterosexual.
Sorry, what?
Like it's high risk? Is that what you're saying?
High risk. They're high risk.
That's what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah, they're high risk. Now, if you had a heterosexual couple who did the same thing, then they'd be almost as high risk, right? Right, it's the act of sodomy. That's the problem. So if you look at the book of Leviticus, I think it's 2013 or Leviticus 2:13. I forgot to double check, but I'll put it up there.
Sodom and Gomorrah, are you talking about?
Sorry?
Are you talking about Sodom and Gomorrah? Or no?
No. The book of Leviticus is a set of laws.
Okay.
Right. So this was done around the time of Moses, which was well after Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Okay. But sodomy and homosexual relations among men was looked down upon for centuries, for thousands of years, and particularly in this area because they saw even though they didn't understand the biology like we do, they understood that if you do this, then this is the consequence. And what they saw amongst these cases is that if these men did this, then they would end up spreading a disease. Okay. And that's the case. And if you look even today, amongst the biggest cases or even for commercials that advertise remedies for HIV/AIDS and medications for them, just on television right now, even to this day, the vast majority of the biggest demographic on there are homosexual men.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Yeah.
So there is a practical reason behind that. Now, of course, as time went on, they had a philosophical side that was added onto it, right? And they go into, and then they also base it off the practical reason of marriage that we talked before in the previous purposes, so in the previous episodes. And the church, what they want to make sure is that children understand this is the practical reason of marriage before getting into anything else, right? Get that into your head. This is what the real reason of marriage is, okay? And all those other stuff that they have is that's letting people be able just to live how they want to live, right?
So let's go back to the rainbow flag for a second, because to be devil's advocate, what's the downside of having because I'm even thinking myself, right? I go back and forth. I think I don't like the fact that first of all, I don't like the fact that any flag or anything is ever forced. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't think there's necessarily a problem with having them fly, but at the same time, I do feel like it's actually separating them more than including them. How do you feel about that?
Well, the thing is if you're in a Catholic school and if you're Catholic, regardless of whether what your orientation is,
or skin color shouldn't matter either.
Skin color, whatever the case is, it doesn't matter. Your faith is what makes you Catholic. And the flag that represents that, and that's all inclusive of every single Catholic around the world, is the Vatican flag, right? And if you want to go even more so, if you want to have all Christians, generally speaking, it's the cross, right? It's the cross,
By
dying on the cross, stuff like that. That's what represents. That's what's the all-inclusive part, right? So if you want to talk about the Catholic Church being non-inclusive, no, it is inclusive of people who are of the same faith, right? Regardless of what their orientation is and all that stuff, right? I mean, it only makes sense. Now you go try and pull that off with the Muslim community. See if they will put the gay pride flag up and all.
So I don't mean to laugh, but you're right. You're right.
They won't
be bullied like that.
Not even the Buddhist community won't. The Hindu community won't. No. The Sikh community won't. None of them will. Say what?
Does the Jewish community?
Jewish community, no. Jewish community won't either.
So how does the Catholic community get bullied?
The Catholic community gets bullied because the government is using its policies and the fact that there's taxpayer money going to pay the schools. Now, here's the thing, though. Now, if you look in,
but then because of that, there is taxpayer money going towards paying the schools. Now it can be completely subjected to politics, like you're saying.
That's the problem. Now, here's the thing, though. This is how the taxpayer money is applied. This is how it's applied. It's by choice.
Yes, you allocate. Yeah.
Divert. By default, like for me, so long as I had a kid, when I didn't have a kid, I'm Catholic. When I didn't have a kid and I paid taxes, all my school taxes went to the public schools.
Yeah.
Right. But the moment that I became a father, right, and my kids started going to school, now I get to choose where my taxes go. Yes. And technically, I believe that this should be the case for any faith-based school, right? And I'm Catholic, but the thing is, I think they should allow the same thing for Muslim schools. They should allow the same thing for Jewish schools, Hindu schools, whatever.
Equality is equal, yeah.
Equality is equal. And the only reason why that we have this system right in Canada for so long is because it was majority Catholic, or like for the longest time, particularly in Quebec, right? Yeah. And that's how it came out that way. And
most of our laws probably came out of that area, right? So
yeah, exactly. Most Catholics came out of Quebec. So, but the thing is, if you look at, and this is where the problem with the flag is, if you look at any country that has no separation of religion and state, okay, or very weak separation of religion and state. Yeah. Good example: my parents' home country is Sri Lanka, right? But their old mother, where their mother tongue is from, and where my wife comes from, right? If you go to any government institution, there are two flags that you'll see for sure. One is the Sri Lankan national flag, okay, and the other is the Buddhist flag.
Really?
Yeah. The reason is because the majority of people in Sri Lanka are Buddhist. Okay. As a matter of fact, if you do something wrong that offends Buddhists, you could be arrested.
So their laws are aligned as well, then.
Yeah, the laws are aligned as well. So, for instance, there was a British woman who was Buddhist, right? And she had a tattoo of Buddha on her shoulder, on her arm, right? Okay. And that was her way of saying this, her way of respecting Buddha. But in South Asia, tattoos are never seen as anything good. As a matter of fact, if you wear tattoos, that's bad.
Yeah,
that's the culture there. Yeah. So when she visited Sri Lanka, she got into a three-wheeler, and the driver saw the tattoo on her shoulder. He told her, I just had to make a quick stop off at somewhere, right? So while she was in the three-wheeler, he drove to the police station.
Wow.
Stopped off at the police, stopped off there, went to a police officer and basically motioned to the lady there. The police officer took her, arrested her right then and there, and put her in jail.
Wow.
On the charge was offending Buddha. So it's the same idea.
You don't separate church and state.
Exactly. Now, here's the thing. In Canada, we used to have complete separation of church and state for decades, right? Until, where we had the separation of religion and state for decades, until recently. That religion is represented by the pride flag, whether you like it or not. because it's not necessarily that the pride flag represents just the people. It also represents a way of life, and it also represents a certain ideology and represents a certain group of people.
An ideology, yeah.
So when you have, why a lot of Catholics are against this, and even the Archbishop there is against this. Archbishop of Ottawa is highly against this, and he was completely ignored because there are certain people who have gotten into the Catholic School Board who are pretty much activists, right?
Okay.
They're not normal, your average LGBT folks. These people are like hardcore activists, or they're the type of people who basically, like, if you argue with them on something, they call you homophobic and they slander you.
Yeah, exactly. And my idea too is that if you have a group of people, whatever your cause is, and you want to fight for equality and equal rights and everything, like jamming your message or jamming your whatever, just your message down everybody's throat isn't a good way to do it.
Exactly.
Right? And if you get it that way, I'm not saying this is exactly what's going on with the LGBTQ plus community, but I'm saying that it oftentimes looks that way because
of the activists.
Because of the activists, exactly. And it doesn't seem sometimes like that's where the message belongs, not because it's inappropriate, because it's just, why is the discussion even about that?
Exactly.
I'm saying, like if, here's my question. I don't know if it's a real question or not, but how many Catholics, or sorry, how many people in the LGBTQ plus community are Catholics? That's my first question.
Yeah.
Secondly, how many are in the Catholic School Board? Maybe they're not Catholics, but maybe they're still in the Catholic School Board. And thirdly, like, why, if you are part of this, why try and change what you're part of? You know what I mean? Like,
so, and that's the thing. And if you look now, here's the thing where I have an issue, where I take issue with the Canadian government, with the way that they're handling the Catholic School Board, is because in Sri Lanka, where you have a majority Buddhist, you have majority Buddhists, like it's like, I think about 80 or 90% people are Buddhist in the country. Everyone else, including Catholics, are a small minority, but still they don't put the Buddhist flag on Catholic schools. They don't put them on Muslim schools. They don't put them at the Hindu schools, right? So, and they don't push it. They're far more tolerant over there of other faiths than they are here in Canada. As a matter of fact, they celebrate every single religious holiday in that country, that for every major religion that's there.
Well, and that's the problem, is that what you're saying, I think what you're alluding to, is that the rainbow flag, which is for all intents and purposes, I have a hard time seeing the LGBT plus, sometimes I mumble that, but I just say the rainbow flag. You're using the rainbow flag or that cause as a religion.
That's the problem.
But it's worse than, I don't want to say it's worse than religion. It's different in a religion in a negative way, because it's whatever values you hold. Like, I could be gay and you could be gay. We could be completely different values.
Yep.
And we all go under the same flag? That doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't. As a matter of fact, there are conservative homosexuals that are out there. And I still remember there was actually an event down south where there was a whole group of really nice, they were conservative homosexuals that went down to an area that had been completely screwed up by riots to clean up. Okay. They went up there to clean up, and a whole bunch of left-wing extreme type of homosexual activists started harassing them. A whole bunch of left-wingers started harassing them, screaming at them and telling them to get out. I'm like, what the heck? It doesn't make any sense.
And that's what political ideology gets. Ideology gets you into the problem. And that's why in my opinion, and probably opinion of maybe you as well, that the rainbow flag and the rainbow movement is more a left movement than it is about gays.
Exactly.
About gay, bis, transsexual, and all of that. And the other thing I want to tease out as well, gay people don't agree necessarily with the trans movement, and vice versa. So why is that lumped in together, right?
Exactly.
Like, there are a lot of people that have questions about the trans movement, not judgment, but legit questions, right? There are people that, like you said, on all sides of the spectrum, and that rainbow flag is supposed to encompass a small group of people, but even within that group, it's not encompassing
Yep.
Like, why not go under the Canadian flag? Or why not go? Why not go under the Roman Catholic flag if you're Catholic? You know, why not? That makes more sense. And it can only to me it only sounds like distraction for some reason. It's like the left dividing us more.
It is.
Okay.
And the truth of the matter is that, like,
I'm getting worked up.
Lesbian feminists do not get along with the transsexuals who are like men who think that they're women. Right.
I could see why maybe not, because if you're talking about like gay women are still women.
Yes.
Right?
And the biggest
and this is
exactly. And here's again where we're going back to what the complicatedness that we saw, like in what was happening in Kabane Lambe's videos, right? Is that you have these people who are basically trying to they first they said that, you know, your sexual orientation is fixed, right? You can't change your sexual orientation.
Yeah.
But then the trans community, then the trans movement came out, and then now they're telling heterosexual men that if you don't date a trans woman, right? So essentially a man who thinks he's a woman, then you're a bigot. But if you're straight, if your sexual orientation doesn't change, then if you're straight, that means the orientation shouldn't change. If you don't, and also if it's a personal preference, right, for a man to date a biological woman, why the heck are you calling him a bigot, and basically persecuting him for his preference? They're doing the same thing with lesbian women.
Exactly. Well, that's the problem. Like this time, and under racial issues is when preference is not allowed, right?
Yeah.
So they're conflating gender, first of all, with orientation. Those are two different things.
Yeah.
Right. Then they're also conflating. Some people are conflating biological gender and how you identify as gender. So how you identify as gender, as far as I'm concerned, it can be thrown out the window.
Yeah.
What you want to call yourself is whatever you want, but there's a biological, sex, and then you can identify as somebody else. I don't care. You can do whatever you want, but I'm not going to say that that's biologically right. So the idea of conflating gender with sexual orientation, that itself is not a given. Many people, like I said point earlier, many people that are gay or straight have no question about their gender. Yeah. And then on the other hand, people that have questions, you know what I mean? Like, and then I want to make one more point as well. The idea that, and this is becoming almost a common thing, but the idea that a woman needs to question herself whether she's a woman or a man just because she has man qualities is absurd, right?
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
There's a spectrum. There's men that are like men, lumberjack men, and there are men that are fantastic at other things that are considered, let's just say, typical of female traits. Like, I don't even want to try and whatever.
You know what? I know, we get it.
You know what I mean? But at the same time, I am along that spectrum. Everybody I know is on that spectrum. I have things about me that you would say are so feminine, you would be surprised. There's things about me that are so masculine, people would be surprised. And that's what we've gone away from. Like, we've gone so complicated, like you said, back to our earlier point. We have to identify that. You're not, if you're not a lumberjack, you're not a man. Bullshit. You're still a man. I don't care if you dance. I don't care if you crochet. I don't care if you figure skate. I don't care if you're gay. You're still a man if you're a man.
Yes, exactly. And the same thing for women. I mean, we got a name for like the girls who like sports and the tomboys.
Right? And tomboys were okay with being called tomboys that I knew.
Yeah. My sister was a tomboy. And she grew up to be a perfectly fine lady. She grew out of the tomboyishness. Heck, my wife still has some tomboyish qualities. Right?
But to your point, though, even if you don't grow out of it, that's also 100% fine.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter. Like, I'm telling you, man, there's things about me that my wife to this day, she'll say to me, "Oh my God, you're so sensitive. You're so whatever." And I'm like, even though that's not just a female trait to be sensitive or, emotional, whatever like that. But of course, certain, I like things that are pretty, and I'll call them pretty. Like, you know what I mean? I like
flowers and stuff like that, right?
Well, of course. Yeah. And I like it for the artistic value. I like it for the smell. I like it because it makes my wife happy or whatever the reason is. But you're right. It's like that spectrum of a man is still there. It needs to be there. And we actually need to hold on to it. And it's funny. I like it that it's actually joining men from all along that spectrum together. Yeah. Gay men, straight men, everybody's saying, hey, we're still men, guys, and it doesn't matter. And on the women's side as well. And when this really comes up is around the discussion right now around transgender in sports. right?
Yeah,
Especially
that's the dangerous part.
high school kids, college kids. I'm concerned from the high school and college kids around safety for one, but also from fair competitiveness, right? As a competitor myself, if I was 18 years old, let's just say, to coin this example, if I was 18 years old, and a man playing sports or high school, or soccer, anything, wrestling, for example, and I went through reassignment surgery and I identified as a woman and I was now a woman, still having 18 years of genetics, 18 years of testosterone, my muscle, my bone, it's unfair advantage.
It is
right?
unfair advantage. Like there are certain sports that you could have co-ed, like archery, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But even
or
tennis,
or some objective things aren't.
but like even tennis, Serena Williams, okay,
that's
the Wimbledon champion, right? Serena Williams, even for on the women's Wimbledon, like the women's tennis champ,
Yeah,
even
multiple.
she said that she would not want to play against guys, like professional male tennis players, because they're faster, they hit harder.
Actually, it's funny because Andy Murray, he was been joking about myself and him playing a match, and I'm like, Andy, seriously, like, are you kidding me? Because for me, tennis and men's tennis and women's tennis are completely almost two separate sports. So I'm like, if I were to play Andy Murray, I would lose 6-0, 6-0 in 5 to 6 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, because no, it's true. It's true. It's a completely. It's a completely different sport. The men are a lot faster, and they serve harder, they hit harder. It's just a different game, and I love to play women's tennis, and I only want to play girls because I don't want to be embarrassed. I would not do the tour. I wouldn't do Billie Jean any justice. So Andy, stop it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna let you kill me.
I'm with you when it comes to tennis. I only want to play girls.
Yeah.
We got that going on.
See, we have something in common.
Got more than something in common.
I knew it. I just felt like we had this connection.
They showed a video of Serena Williams in one of those, Serena Williams paired with a male partner, and on the other side they had a lady and a man, so men's, women's pairs or duos, what do they call those? But what they did was, what happened in this scenario is that the men were shooting the ball at the women. They were serving the ball at the women, and they couldn't catch it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then there's another scenario where I think it was the Australian women's world champion soccer team, what they call football over there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They got beaten by a bunch of amateur 15-year-old high school boys, 7-0.
So, and you know what the thing is, though, that's not a knock on women at all. What that is, it clearly identifies that we're different.
It clearly identifies, I mean, it's like, for Pete's sake, it's putting guys in those type of contact, high aggression type of sports with girls is like going to a guy and telling, okay, bear a baby.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
Well, you can't. No, exactly. Yeah.
Like, there are like the thing is, you got some very rare occurrences in like among women's sports where you have like women like Gina Carano. Gina Carano was able to actually go head to head with a lot of guys.
Yeah.
But the thing is, as she got further higher up the ranks, well, guess what? She had trouble.
Well, exactly. And that's like we were saying earlier. It's just, everything has a spectrum. And there are women and men on either sides of the spectrum, right? There's women at the high end of the spectrum that could probably clean the mat with half the guys out there, right? But they're exceptions, right?
Yes.
For in a positive way, I want to say, not a knock at them, but they're freaks. They're anomalies in a good way.
Yeah. they're anomalies.
They're anomalies. You're 100% anomaly. So to say now, to say any man, right, who wants to transition. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a big idea, right? Anyone wants to transition and then to compete with women, it's different because it's not a woman that's on the edge of the spectrum of women's. It's a man, right? Which already starts on a different spectrum. So that's the difference.
They're totally different spectrum.
In my mind, right? There's more testosterone. There's bigger bone density, bigger muscle density, fast twitch muscles. Like there's, not saying that women don't have it, but different proportions.
Biology. There's different biology. We're built for different reasons, right? Women carry babies. That if we can't acknowledge that that's such a huge thing, right? And like we were saying earlier,
the sometimes the trans movement that is changing gender, whatever you want to call it, I think it's a trans movement, that's really insulting to a lot of people in the feminist movement.
Yeah.
Right.
And the thing is that people have to understand that even in the DSM-5, they label people who are genuinely transsexual as suffering from gender dysphoria, which is a mental illness, or it's an issue that they have, that someone has mentally. And it's not that I'm trying to play this down, but these people really do need therapy. They do need help, and they have a 40% chance. They have a 40% suicide rate, whether they get corrective surgery, whether they get sex reassignment surgery or not. It doesn't change anything. They have very almost. It's like their way of the situation that they have with the irritation that they have with their reality of their biology is almost like OCD like.
I could just imagine the conflict that they would be going on for sure.
Internal. Yeah, it's really, and the thing is, what I really don't like is how there are these people who are not genuinely transsexual. They're doing it for attention. They're pretending to be transsexual on YouTube, and they're these people are that they call trans trenders. Yeah. They're like, oh, I just walk up one day and you know what?
Celebrity status, right?
I'm the opposite gender of what I am.
That's the world we live in, right? Is that maybe this is tying into everything. We've gone so far away from common sense, right? Mm-hmm. To a point where whatever sticks against the wall, people will try and do.
Yeah. And the thing is that a lot of people,
this is the latest fad, right? In craziness.
Yeah. And on top of that, you got children whose mothers want them to be like little boys whose moms want them to be girls.
That's abuse.
That's abuse. That's typically abuse. And they're basically telling their boys that they are girls. There's one father, of course, mother and father are split, and he got really upset because after his son was going with his mom, his son was putting a towel on his head so that he could have pretending to have long hair. And his dad said, why are you doing that? I said, oh, because I'm a girl. I said, who tell you that, mommy? Like, mommy says I'm a girl, so I'm a girl.
Well, and that brings up a good point too, because what's not being talked about, and I think it needs to be talked about, is that tell me someone who's never questioned anything about their life. Tell me someone who's never questioned, even for a second, either their sexuality or their body figure. You know what I mean? For a second. We've all done that. And no kid alive has gone through puberty and for a second thought that they were inferior or thought for a second they never meet a mate. Of course, right? Mm-hmm. Or thought for a second, oh my God, I don't like girls and all my buddies like girls yet. Or I like girls before my buddies like girls. Or, you know, any scenario like that, right? Or I don't like boys. So I think, and this needs to be said, that I think so many people question their sexuality, their orientation, just their purpose in life, right? Their religion. Oh my God. We question our religion all the time. It's not expected to go through major things when people do, right? So I think that what we should be supporting is support people through this process. It is a battle, right? It is something to go through, but let's let them work it through. Let's let them see the fact that maybe, I guess my point is that if kids were taught the spectrum of manhood, the spectrum of womanhood is broad. If they were taught that would be real acceptance, rather than saying, I'm going to put a label on you, give you a flag, and make you go on a riot, or not a riot, but a march, which sometimes turns into riots. But I think that's a better way to do it, because if we're all men, let's accept all men, let's accept all women. And there are some people who are trans, and if they're going to be trans, fine, you can do whatever you want, and I'll accept you as well. But let's teach kids maybe that accept earlier on to probably avoid some of these issues.
Yeah, and the thing is, you understand that gender dysphoria is a disorder. It's not a disease, sorry, a mental disorder, right? It's a mental disorder, and it's not, people suffer when they have it. So it's not something that, why would you want to put this on someone else, right? If you have someone, if you can take that person out of that, why put them in it? It's like, say, telling somebody who can walk, you're a paraplegic and you need to be in a wheelchair. But
or
they
you
can walk.
How are you walking? Is it fine? You think you're walking okay?
Yeah, exactly. You're not walking okay. I think you're paraplegic. I think you should be in a wheelchair, or you should be on crutches. And then what happens then, after being in that chair for so long, the muscles atrophy. They end up losing their ability to walk properly, right? You have muscle atrophy because of muscle atrophication.
Now, there's going to be parents out there, right? There's going to be people out there that are going to say, hey, my kid just exhibited these. I'm not forcing anything. I'm not. So I understand there's going to be scenarios everywhere, right? There are some scenarios I want to say. There are probably some idiot parents out there that are subconsciously dangling a carrot, that are subconsciously leading them in any direction. So I'm not saying specifically, but there are going to be a lot of parents out there that are doing just the best they can, of course, right? And then they say their kids are exhibiting different things. I think if your kid's exhibiting different behaviors, first of all, if it's a safe behavior, if it's a behavior that's respectful, sure. But if it's something that's really questioning them, or you're worried about this or whatever, talk to them. You have to talk to them, right? I think as a job as a parent is to look out for the long run, right? For your kids. How are you going to make sure your kids have a good life, or the best thing you can do? And if you're really looking at your kids' best interest, think about what your kids are going to be thinking about life and children when they're 40, when they're 50, right? And sometimes I think the left movement gets hijacked, or the left hijacks small groups like the LGBTQ. I don't know, I'm saying it wrong.
LGBTQT.
Yes, plus. So the left hijacks that group because unfortunately they are most vulnerable. It's a small minority, right? They're disenfranchised, or they feel, they don't belong.
Worldwide.
What's that?
Worldwide. They're a minority
worldwide. And the left is grabbing them and saying, well, yes, everything else is wrong too, so let's burn the city down.
Yeah, that's not right. I mean, my sister's got homosexual friends. I have
friends, yeah.
And the thing is they just want they just want to lead normal lives. Just leave them alone. I mean,
everybody I know is just like me and you. Everybody wants you to leave alone and raise your kids and feed your kids.
Yeah. And I know guys who walked in the gay pride parade and had no problem. And the thing was, you keep your thing in your, what you do behind closed doors is your business and not mine. Don't come showing that to me. Because the last thing, honestly, I don't care what you think. I don't want to see two guys smooching out in front of me or whatever. The thing is, one thing I don't like about the gay pride parade though is when you got these people these guys who go on dangling their man bits in front of kids. And that happens sometimes in this case, and that's another reason why the gay pride flag doesn't belong in a Catholic church or a Catholic school, because of that type of behavior, right?
It's what gets associated with it.
Yeah, I know that a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, what about all the pedophiles that have gotten in the Catholic Church?" Well, yeah, you got some bad apples that snuck in there, yeah, right. But then it's the same way as you got bad cops that snuck into the police force. Or you got bad teachers who sneak into the school system, or bad doctors who sneak into the medical school system, the medicine system, or medical schools and all that stuff. It happens anywhere.
It's funny though. I wonder if the gay pride parade, or people who go to the big, I mean, first of all, there's a lot of people who go to the gay pride parade, whether they're gay or not, or supporting or not. But most people that are gay probably don't go to the gay pride parade, right? It probably is just a small minority who participate in anything in life.
Yeah, and that there are a lot of people.
And we also get the crazies that do everything, right? The crazies will riot, the crazies will protest, the crazies go on a parade.
And the thing is, you got a lot of people who go around saying it's a family event, If you got guys dressed up as dildos and women and some other people dressed up as vaginas, that's not a family event.
Yeah.
Okay, there are certain things that are there that you'd see at a strip club. That's an adult event. Yeah. And honestly, if they're going to keep going this way, the gay pride parade belongs in like the Rogers Center or a stadium. Honestly,
I mean, if it's going to, I mean, and I don't suggest that any parade should be offensive, but if it's going to be offensive, it should be a private event, really. Yeah, then it's adult.
Either stop with the public displays of like adult material or adult oriented stuff, or if you either stop that and then you can keep it public, or put it in a private area, like a closed area, like a stadium. Right?
So I'm gonna put my progressive hat on for a second. Is this the pendulum that needed to swing this far?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's
we need to correct a lot of wrongs, right?
Yeah, because here's the thing: during the gay pride parade, there are a lot of people who get away with stuff that the police would normally arrest you for public indecency for, right? So if you did that stuff in public at any other time, you would, especially in front of children, the police would arrest you. for public indecency, whether you're gay or not.
So there's nudity, you mean, during the public?
Yes.
Like actual nudity?
There is actual nudity with men going with their butts out, men going with their junk out. There are people dressed as genitalia.
Yeah.
So,
or genitalia.
and what is that supposed to mean? And then there are people who are, say, sexually deviant, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Get a little bit kinky type of scenario. And that's not something that's family friendly. It's family friendly means it's suitable for kids. Family friendly means like,
you're right. At the same time, I'm not saying anybody doesn't have the freedom to do that, but you're right. That's not a family event.
no,
If you're talking about sex at all, if you're talking about kink, that's not a family. That's not for children.
that's not for kids. If you're talking about that, if you're talking about, okay, this is, okay, there are two moms, there's two dads. Okay, kids are not going to be able to catch on to a big time, and they'll be okay. That's it. But the thing is, the moment that you have all that other stuff, that's no.
You know what I want to talk to? I want to talk to the demographic 40 to 70 gay people. You know why? Because like me, like other people, a lot of people get more conservative as the older they get. That must ring true to all walks of life. And I wonder, because what do gay people that are 40 and 50 and 60 years old think of the 20-year-old gay people, right? Just like me. I'm a white guy. What do I think of the 20-year-olds? I think the 20-year-old white guys are crazy. So I wonder. It's an interesting question I pose in my mind, because I'm thinking, write to us, send our voice, right?
Yeah.
Because it's probably also a little bit of the same. It's like, come on, guys, why are you being idiots? Why do you need a parade when really what you need is legal rights, right?
Yes.
And that's the most, and legal rights are there now.
Everything's there. I mean, you have legal rights. I mean, this is their equivalent of Christmas.
I agree with legal rights, 100%.
If you look at it. They've got a flag. They have an ideology, and they have a parade. Guess who else has that? Okay, Christians.
Yeah.
They have a symbol. They have, with Catholics, they have a flag. Yeah. They have a parade, Santa Claus parade. That's family friendly. Okay, and you see what I mean? And they have an ideology.
Actually, you get tax breaks when you're religion. Why haven't they become religion yet?
Sorry, what?
You get tax breaks when you're religion. Why haven't they become one yet?
Yeah, that's the thing, is that they are it is practically like a religion. It is the way that they behave and on the way that they think and all that. It's like a religious cult, right? Yeah. But the biggest problem is that there is no redemption in these types of religious cults.
Yes.
That's the biggest plus about Christianity, or even certain other religions, is that there is a redemption factor.
Well, because there's a higher power.
Yeah, because there's a higher power
in this group mentality, this ideology. The group is the higher power, and that's the dangerous part.
That's the problem. And if you don't fall in line, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true. And then it's the next step. I wonder if it's dangerous, but the next step is then being a political party.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna go that way, because it's gonna go, like, if you look at a good example is my parents' home country.
And just get me wrong, don't get me wrong. I don't associate the rainbow flag with all gay people or all people that are even, but I consider that a group on its own. Like Black Lives Matter, I don't consider, like, because I love Black people and I support all Black lives. I don't just because of that I don't belong to Black Lives Matter, right? In the same way, I don't think just because you support gay people, you have to support this rainbow flag.
No, exactly. Even Black Lives Matter has proven to not be about all Black lives. I mean, you see that a previous video we had about a woman who was working in a shop, part-time owner of the shop, and they tore down her shop, they looted everything, they wanted money, and they just messed up everything. There was another girl who came, and it's always the case is whenever there is somebody who wants to clean up, who wants to build up, whether they're gay, straight, Afro, Muslim, whatever, right? Male or female, it doesn't really matter. Whenever you have someone who wants to build up, then there's always someone who wants to destroy. And the person who wants to destroy always points the gun at the person who wants to build up. Yeah. And like there's the same thing with the Black Lives Matter movement. There's another lady, a young lady who came with her friends out to clean up their neighborhood. And and there was another Afro guy who pulled a gun on her. And she was, because she was cleaning up. And pulled it on her and her friends, right? They're all girls. All Afro women, and this guy pulled out a gun on them. He's an Afro guy, right? And she was later on crying in her car on a stream or something. How could this guy do this? But these people are about Black Lives Matter. Here's a black man who should be, who should be protecting us Black sisters. He pointed a gun on us, right? So it doesn't really. So the whole idea that all Black people think a certain way, all white people think a certain way, all gay people think a certain way, it's not true.
And that's why you can't have a flag. That's why you really shouldn't have a flag to kind of.
And the media keeps on pushing that, everybody thinks the same way. No, this is getting to the point of like communist China.
Well, it's clearly when I hear the media says everybody thinks this, it's clearly the people who are paying our bills think this. Clearly. That's
exactly.
That's
essentially what it is, right?
Yep.
And so they push this ideology to the point where it's almost like the CCP, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
you couldn't. If you looked at Fox, if you watch Fox News, for example, in the U.S., and then the next day you watch MSNBC, it's like you're watching two different countries.
Yeah, I know.
It's crazy.
There are people that always think the same. They think differently. And you go even to like India, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Japan. Even people. There are still people in China who think differently from the government, but the government pushes them down.
Yeah, they're oppressed.
They're oppressed, and that's what's happening now. As the Catholic Church is under severe attack. I mean, even when the case of what happened with those. Let me get this straight. What happened with the natives, with the native people, with the residential schools was horrible. Okay, let's get that all straight. But the full blame is being placed on the Catholic Church. Well, hold on a second here. The Catholic Church didn't make those policies to start the residential schools. That was the government. Okay, the Canadian government made aggressive. You look it up in any type of in Canadian encyclopedia or a history book, and they'll always say is that the Canadian government made aggressive policies to assimilate Native First Nations people into Western Canadian values, right?
Yeah.
And
I was taught growing up. I was taught growing up that was the Canadian government did it, but then at a certain point the schools were handed over to the church or something. Was it that?
Well, the schools. The thing is that the schools were given to run it, but it wasn't just the Catholic Church. The Protestant Church had it, and I bet you they would have had if they had it with the public school, they'll have the public school too, right? So this was a government initiative. And just like right now, what's happening with the Catholic Church, the gay pride flag, it's another government initiative. Everything is with the government. And people have to understand that the church is
government. Nothing happens without the government. It's okay.
No, the church is a pawn.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. The church is a pawn. It's sad, but the church was a pawn, right? Yeah. So,
well, all right. How do we wrap this up? So this is an example of just like it's just too craziness. It's we've gone. We went over the place, all over the place.
We went all over the place this time. But the thing is, again, going back to that message with the thing with Lambe there, is that you have these people who have just overcomplicated things so much. They don't want to look at both sides of the story. They want to make things as, okay, this is one way to do it. Don't look at the simple, easy explanation of this. Look at the complicated thing that I've made, even though I'm being an idiot about it, right? But and anyone could call them out on it, but anyone who does try to call them out on it is pushed down.
Well, exactly. And we haven't even got into the idea of the 72 pronouns, because that alone, right, is a perfect example.
Oh yeah, we could do a simple Lambe, what Lambe is doing there with what those hacks we could do with those 72 pronouns.
Yeah, it's
like seriously, all you do is take a bunch of people's pictures, okay, and then you just z, zer, zai, zer. There's one per. There's the people who are like the complicated fellows. Yeah. And then you have the people who actually are more, keeping it simple.
Like our earlier point, right? There's man here, woman here, and there's 72 pronouns in the middle. Or there's man here with a spectrum, woman here with a spectrum. That's it. Like we said, the idea of it's gotten so bad where there's legislation now that says the person can call himself whatever the hell he wants to, and now governments and schools have to
bull. It's bull. It's just bull.
All right, let's wrap this up, buddy.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for your time, Des. Thanks everybody for watching and listening. Any last words on this?
We pretty much said everything that we had to say. So, well, guys, thanks for watching the video. We'll see you guys in the next video.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Peace.
Thanks for joining in and watching Centerville Voice. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. If you are seeing this on YouTube, make sure you click on the notifications bell so you get notified when we upload new videos, which we release every Friday. Sharing and liking our videos helps promote the channel, and sharing episodes like these helps get the word out so that more people will get to see our videos. If you like what you see and or hear, please consider becoming one of our Patreon supporters. 10% of all Patreon supporter donations we receive goes to our charity of the year. You can visit us at centervillevoice.com to learn more and engage with us on one of our social media pages. Thanks for your support, and we will see you again in our next video or podcast.